Welcome back. We're looking at Dr. Shabir Ally's approach to Islam, and I have Dr. Shabir with me now. Dr. Shabir, we've talked about a lot of different things. We talked about the Quran, the Hadith, the scholarly consensus. Now we want to talk about the use of reason. And you're a big proponent of the use of reason in making judgments based on the sources, Dr. Shabir. So tell me a little bit about what that means.
Yeah, so the Quran invites us to use reason. The Quran talks about this again and again. أَفَلَا تَعْقِلُونَ? Do you not use your reason? God says that He gives His commandments. For example, in the 6th chapter of the Quran, the 151st verse, giving us a list of commandments, and then He says, "Thus I have given you these legacies." So that you may use your reason. So, it's not that I give you the laws and that's it. You're done. It's over and done with. I said it, just do it. But, think about it. Use your reason. So you have to think about how to apply these laws, when to apply them, in what way, and so on. And the Quran shows that there are people who are referred to as ulul albab, people who are, they have like a deep core. They are people of understanding is the best way. But it's like people of deep thinking. And the Quran says, وَمَا يَذَكَّرُ إِلَّا أُولُو الْأَلْبَابِ. Only the people of this deep thinking will really pay heed. And the Quran says that, whoever God has given wisdom to, that person has been given like a lot of good. So it's again and again in so many different ways. The Quran is prizing reason, and the Quran is describing itself as a wise book. For example, the beginning of the 36th chapter of the Quran, Yasin wal Quran al Hakim, Yasin by the wise Quran. So the Quran itself is called wise. And Al Hakim is a title that we use in referring to Luqman, one of the sages of old. He's mentioned in the 31st chapter of the Quran that now bears his name, and God says, وَلَقَدْ آتَيْنَا لُقْمَانَ الْحِكْمَةَ. We have given Luqman hikmah, wisdom. So this is shown in the Quran to be something that God bestows on people. It is a gift, and it is a gift to be used. The intellect is there that we human beings pride ourselves in. But that is to be used for religion. And the Quran shows that people who do not believe in God are not really using their reason. And had they used their reason, they would have believed. And the Quran, I can go on and on about that, but that would be like...
Well, we know that this emphasis on reason was somehow subdued in the Islamic tradition. We know that there was a disagreement between the Ash'arites and the Mu'tazilites, and then somehow it came to be that reason was seen as faulty, right?
Yes. So there's been a long struggle between people who advocate reasonable approaches and people who advocate traditional approaches. Traditional approaches means not simply following the tradition from before, but mainly a kind of a textual, traditional type of approach. So if we contrast Ahmed bin Hanbal, for example, one of the eponyms behind one of the four schools of Islamic jurisprudence, so he championed tradition. We're going to follow the way of the Salaf before us. We're going to follow the traditions, either a text in the Quran or a text that is reported of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. So that's a textual type of approach, Ahmad bin Hanbal, and little use of reason. Whereas on the other hand, we have Abu Hanifa, another eponym behind one of the four schools of Islamic jurisprudence, the Hanafi school, which is the most widespread school today. And so this school, Abu Hanifa himself and his students stressed the use of reason. So in discussions about this period, we can see the classification of Ahlul Hadith versus Ahlul Ra'i. Ahlul Ra'i mean the people of opinion. So the Hanbalis were called Ahlul Hadith. They're championing the Hadith. We should follow the Hadith, a narrative about what the Prophet, peace be upon him, said or did. On the other hand, we have the people of opinion, Ahlul Ra'i. That's the people of Iraq, Abu Hanifa and his students. So what happened to this distinction? Why has it so come about that we don't have this championing of the people of opinion anymore? Well, it's partly due to this Ash'ari Mu'tazili split that you referred to. So in the subsequent centuries, new questions came up, especially questions relating to theology and to and in particular the question of predestination. So the Asharis tried to solve this problem, and Abul Hassan al-Ashari came to the conclusion that there is no reasonable solution to this. And the most he could say in the end is that, look, we're going to use reason to support what we already believe, but reason cannot establish what we are going to believe, because he saw reason as being, in a way, contrary to at least one point in Islamic theology, something that they accepted. They accepted that God has already predestined people to be here or there, either in hell or heaven. And once you accept that, like, everybody sees a problem with that. Like, how can you say that before God created everyone, God already decided, I'm going to put this one in heaven, I'm going to put this one in hell. And then God sends prophets and messengers to warn everyone, you better do the right thing to end up in heaven. And if you do the wrong thing, you will end up in hell. Whereas he knows that he already has predestined who's going to be in heaven, who's going to be in hell. So this is an internal contradiction in that thought system. But if you want to hold on to the idea that, that's okay, God did it, and he's God, so he can do whatever he wants, well, then you're not using reason anymore. You're throwing reason out the window. But you can still bring reason back in order to defend the faith. This was the Ash'ari position. The Mu'tazilis, on the other hand, wanted to make sense of all of this. And they had a different idea of predestination. I'm not necessarily championing their idea and everything that the Mu'tazilis go for, but many Muslims today see that the use of reason is actually very Islamic, even not to be applied, even if not necessarily to be applied in the way that the Mu'tazilis themselves applied it. But the use of reason actually has survived very much in the Shiite tradition. And many lay Muslims and Muslim scholars use reason very much in what they do. And if we didn't use reason, then we wouldn't be faithful to God's commandments. We wouldn't be faithful to the Quran. We wouldn't be faithful even to the narratives that are reported from the Prophet, peace be upon him.
So how would you suggest, Dr. Shabir, that we use reason?
Well, first of all, we're not talking about an unbridled reason. We're, detached from the Quran and the Prophet's way. We just think about what are we going to make Islam tomorrow, so that we come up with a new Islam every day in the light of reason. But we're talking about a reason that is informed by revelation.
Okay.
So the revelation in the Quran, in the life example of the Prophet, peace be upon him, gives us a basic guidance. And we're trying to follow that guidance almost to the letter. But when we run into difficulties, we know that reason can help us to illuminate or to rather to elucidate the revelation. So we can ask, how was this applied in the past, and how might it apply today, so that when one looks at it, one can say, yeah, this is the wise Quran being applied here. This is the wisdom of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. He was a wise man, and this is how he behaved. Otherwise, if we follow some things literally the way they are described in the texts of either the Quran or the prophetic hadiths, then people will look at this and say, well, wait a minute, you said you're following the Quran? That Quran must be a bad book. You say you're following the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him? He must be a bad man.
So what I understand from you is that reason can help you to make connections between things that you maybe, you don't automatically think of. And also reason can help you to see the bigger picture, to step back and see the bigger picture, like what does God intend for us? Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it
like
helps
what
us,
is just, what is right in this circumstance.
True. And in this regard, I can mention a hadith of the Prophet, peace be upon him, which says basically, al-hikmatu dalatul mu'min. The wisdom is the lost property of the believer, such that the believer claims it wherever he finds it. So that if we are to apply this, it means that in using reason, we're open to all learning from all directions. We're going to incorporate science, arts, philosophy. We're going to incorporate all of that into our thinking, but we are doing so as followers of the Quran and followers of our Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, not detached from the Quran, not detached from the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him.
Really fascinating. Thank you for that, Dr. Shabir.
You're welcome.
On behalf of Let the Quran Speak, I want to say thank you. You've helped us become the most widely watched Muslim TV show in Canada. I want to appeal to you to continue to support us. You can visit our website, QuranSpeaks.com. We also accept e-transfers to igive@QuranSpeaks.com. And we're now on Patreon, so you can make a monthly contribution. May God bless you and your loved ones today and always.